Storytelling is huge in business. What I realized was when I ran the first event, a lot of people buy into that story that I've told. It's not something that I made up, right? And I just kind of like told that story in the newsletters, the emails, the site, the landing pages that I've set up. It's because of that story, people bought into that, right? So I realized that a lot of things, a lot of businesses today, right? It comes down into people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Storytelling elements is so important to put in there. I think that's also one huge takeaway I can take away from that experience. You have to really brush up your storytelling and tell your story, because if you don't, you're just the same as anybody out there in the market.
Today's guest is Reuben Chung, founder of Daily CMO and Underdog Con, a community-led event that was born out of failure. A few years ago, Reuben tried to sell his way out of a collapsing partnership, taking on venue costs, chasing short-term revenue, and trying brute force a broken plan. The result? A painful collapse, a hit to his confidence, and a hard truth: they were building for profit, not purpose. But out of that fuck-up came Underdog Con, a reimagined event built on transparency, generosity, and validated demand. Let's dive into Reuben's fuck-up. Welcome to the show, Reuben.
Thank you, Ben. That was a very kind intro and very well elaborate. And just here to share what I know and to take it as personal as possible, to share what I know, and maybe in hopes that it might help you, whoever's watching this or listening to this one, as much as possible in your entrepreneurship or founder journey.
Absolutely. Look, let's kind of set the backstory. Obviously, you had this previous venture and partnership. What were you building at the time? What was the original vision behind that partnership?
Okay, so let me just give a quick backstory, right? And I'll keep it as short as possible so I won't bore anybody. So I had a client who was in the data science space, and this was sometime back in 2018, I believe, 2019, and this was when data science was like booming, right? So every professional who was in accounting, who was in auditing, HR, and even tech wants to get into data science because it was touted as the new oil in the industry. So there was a huge demand for courses and programs, right? So this particular client of mine was in training, right? He was a trainer, he was a data scientist, and what I did for him was, okay, we did build a few programs, we did a few courses together. I marketed the courses for him, and then eventually I said, hey, why don't we partner up and start a company together and build this, right? And eventually we started off as we got into a partnership, and we built up a whole school out of it, per se, right? So what happened then is, while we are partners on surface, but on the back end, we weren't actually partners. I was still an agency servicing him and invoicing him every single month, right? So long story short, we ran for a good 3 to 4 years. And at the end of the 4th year, I believe, what happened was I stopped getting my invoices paid from this said partner, right? And it turned out that money has run out in the company, which I did not have visibility for. And I think maybe you can go through into the intricate details, but then one of the fuck-ups per se was like I didn't have any visibility into any accounting, any business dealings in the company itself to call ourselves as partners. So we just went on straight and just ran into the business without doing anything. So due diligence and setting up like proper systems.
So you were a glorified handshake deal.
Yes, handshake deal, man-to-man sort of deal. Yeah, that happens a lot, I think, in the market.
And somewhere along the lines, money started to dry up. It wasn't coming through to you. Where did that leave you when he wasn't paying? What happened to you and your side of the business?
Right. So on my side of the business, 90% of my time was spent on this venture together with my partner. Right? Personally, at that time, I also had just had my baby, my first daughter, right? And this was like a time. I don't know, for if you ever had like a kid, a firstborn child, right? You know that the first 2 months is like you're in a dream, You don't know what day is it, you don't know what time is it, right? You're just like in a dream, and it happened exactly at that time, right? So like, you didn't bother about it. So my investors stopped paying at that moment. So 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and it came to about the fifth month, and like, okay, what's going on, right? And the reason I say this is because it's not that the company isn't driving in revenue. We are driving revenue. Data science was still very hot. We were also building solutions for companies, as in building data science, data dashboards for companies who wants to track and measure their data analytics. So business was that. It's just that the invoices stopped being paid.
How did you keep yourself afloat for 4 or 5 months before you actually like raised your hand and go, where's the money? Like, how did you like keep going for 4 months without collecting any money or not even questioning why these invoices aren't getting paid?
Yeah. So good question. So basically, the team that we had was a very lean team. We had 3 full-time with us, and it was 3 full-time and a few contractors outside, right? The thing is, the way it was set up was all the full-timers was under my company, right? So I was forking out for all the staff costs, bills and everything, and then invoicing that to the partner, said partner, which is actually more like a client right now, right? If you think about it. And basically, all this was coming out from our business accounts every month. So I just stood on ground.
So you had obviously had profitable years where you
Yep.
had built up a nice
Yep.
sort of
Vault. Chest.
vault, war chest, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, the kind of,
Yeah.
and so you didn't really feel or notice the cash flow problem until sort of 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. And
So
mind
pros
you,
and
like
cons of
yeah.
pros and cons of having a nice amount of money in the bank. But
That's
if you're not
true,
tracking
that's
cash
true.
flow, even with, it disappears
That's
fast,
true.
huh?
And overly trusting a partner, right? Because we were super close. We were like friends, and I thought like I might just be busy because he was also working on together with another company, and the company was going IPO, right? So he was a non-ED in that company. So I guess he was busy. So that was in my mind. Oh, he's just busy. Don't worry. He'll get sorted out soon.
Did the conversation go like, "Hey man, hey, it's time to pay your invoices. You're like 4 or 5 months late." Like what started to happen there? Because like you said earlier, revenue was flowing into that side of the
Yeah.
like that business because you were doing
Yeah.
the marketing for it. You were delivering the customers. What
Yeah.
happened there?
So the company was very heavy on marketing. So we did a lot of content marketing. We did a lot of ads, a lot of webinars, those sort of things to drive signups and also interest for the courses and programs, right? So a lot of the heavy work came from my end, right? So the first sign was my then partner started pushing my employees to work harder, right? I was like, oh, that's strange. And then he started like, oh, can we come up with like spreadsheets of like what are the tasks you do every single day? We should have a daily stand up every single day. What things have you done? He went
did
into
that
a
come
micromanaging
because-
mode.
Yeah, did that when he started to micromanage? Was it because
Yeah.
performance was dipping, like we weren't getting the results expected? Is that why he started to micromanage?
Not really. So suddenly we were in a mode where we were trying to chase revenue. Like, oh yeah, well, we got to get this thing done. Okay, we want to chase revenue. Let's do more. Let's launch 2 courses instead of 1. Can we do it in the next 30 days instead of 45 days? Everything was being compressed very quickly suddenly at that time. And
all
then
of the-
when I- yeah.
all whilst this was happening, he wasn't
Yeah.
paying his invoices.
Yes, he wasn't paying his invoices. Yeah. And then
So
when I
2
finally
red flags.
confronted, yeah. And then when I finally confronted the situation, say, hey, why is invoices not being paid? He pulled up a spreadsheet, a made-up spreadsheet, nothing by any accounting standards, and say, oh, this is where the money flows, and it's all gone. There's no money in the bank. And I'm like,
How did you
Okay.
react to that?
I mean, I was like shocked, like, is it so? All right. And, he came up with some, for like a better word, bullshit story. Oh, this amount of money was paid to advertising, and then there's legal, there's accounting, and somehow there's no cash in the bank. So like I was pretty like surprised. Yeah.
And obviously, you're an important cost. How did you accept it in face value? The spreadsheet, upset and shocked, but did you accept it, or did you then take, like, what was the next action?
So like it was strange because now thinking back, right, I'm overly nice, I guess. So I said, oh, okay, so this has happened. Yeah, it is what it is, right? So what can we do about it? Right, so I wasn't even looking into the accounts. I wasn't digging into the thing. I wasn't questioning too deep about it. Just a couple of like basic on the surface level questions, and then very quickly move into like what can we do to save this right now? Yeah.
So when you were thinking of saving this, were you still thinking of it, I've got my partner, we're going to do it together? Or were
Yeah,
you already...
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were still in that part. And so when you started to try and solve it, what did you do? What were you trying to do to kind of get out of this?
Right. So at that
hole?
time we had like a huge hole, right? And we needed cash in like really quickly. So we met up physically, and then we look at what are some options to quickly raise some cash in, right? And we were a bootstrap company, so we didn't have investors or anything like that. So we put out a few things. Should we run a course? Should we do some consulting? Da, 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 da. And then it came into one of the ideas was let's run an event because there's not many data science event around. And 2 years prior, we have run a digital summit on data science, and it was very well received. So we thought, hey, we can pull a physical event out because we don't really see many data science event around in the market. So why not, right? Let's go and sell it for about 120 people. We had some ticket pricing, and then yeah, let's go and do it. Let's just raise this money to save this company to tide through these tough times for now.
Okay. So you came up with essentially a new vision and plan to
Yeah.
pull in cash to
Yeah.
tackle this deficit that has been caused from what we don't understand as to why, other than just high costs, because that's what we believe at the moment from this spreadsheet. At what point do you think actually we're not the problem, it's this guy?
Can you rephrase that question again? Like
When do you realize that the part, because earlier you said the spreadsheet was bollocks, but so far in the story you've believed the
Right.
spreadsheet, you've believed your partner
Right.
is actually, all right, we just don't have any money to pay these invoices, so you've come up with this plan to tackle this problem. But
Right.
at what point do you realize that this is a failing partnership, that this is like your breaking point, like something's wrong with this partnership here?
Okay, right. So it was clear to me that he couldn't pay his invoices, right? And that's like a given. So despite that, I feel like okay, let's just continue doing this. Let's try to raise something and tide through these times because he didn't have a lot of time left, right? And then when I started planning for this event, right, the cost economics, how much should we sell, how many people should we target, and more, he started sipping in doubt into me. Do you think we have enough time? Do you think this will sell? Do you think will people join this? So there's this constant like fear mongering negative thing coming in. But the final nail in the coffin was I went to the event space. I scouted a few event spaces, and I got an event space. I signed up for the invoice again, obviously under my company. Come back to him and say, hey, let's run this event, right? And let's pay the invoice, at least a 50%. That's what they asked for, and then let's put it up on the site and let's go. And then he said, I can't pay for this invoice. And at that point, I was like, what? The invoice isn't even that much, right? And you can't pay for this invoice. You give me all sorts of excuses, and like at that point, I was like, okay, this is it. I can't do this anymore, right? This to and fro thing is just too much. Let's just call it quits.
Okay. Before we go into how you sort of got out of this hole that we're dug into at the moment.
Yeah.
Did you like try to take action on the invoices owed, or go after your former partner in a sense that he owes you money, you did your job, those are invoices to be paid, I don't believe you anymore, any of that?
Well, for one, I don't believe him anymore at this point, and that's a question that there's a lot of questions that a lot of people have asked me, right? Have you pursued the unpaid invoices? or get any legal help on this. No, I've not pursued on this, and I don't really know the reason why that I didn't pursue it as well. But I guess both sides will have a different story, right?
Sure.
And yeah, and like I felt like the industry is small, so it's just not so worth for me to go after, yeah, the unpaid invoices.
I understand, like you also, the time and energy that would take to go into that. Obviously, he would have to have audited his company in Malaysia. You get audited, so it'd be very quick to see where the money was spent. But I completely understand you moved on
Yeah.
to solve your current core problem.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, how did you feel about all of this? Like, professionally, this has been what you've been doing for years. It's like I said, 95% of your business was this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had just had a child, your first daughter. What was kind of that emotional or even identity cost of that moment?
I think finally when this happened, right, it wasn't so much of the money itself, it wasn't so much of the revenue, it's more of the identity crisis that I had at that time, right? So I called myself or see myself as head of marketing for the company for like a good 4 to 5 years. And when that happened, right, I felt like, what do I do now? And what do I call myself now? I'm back to becoming a small-time agency founder, which doesn't sound very sexy to me. This didn't sound very fitting to me. So I think that when I reflect back, right, it's the identity crisis of not being sure who I am at that time, which affected me the most.
I feel you. I remember my first venture in the UK. It was this esports event. When it collapsed, I mean, it was like 3-4 months. I was just like, rebuild our identity. And no, I completely understand. Well, let's think about that now. We've gone, just to reset the story. You had a partnership that worked for years. Then it no longer did, in a very weird way. You had sort of a 4, 5, even 6 month, probably with the additional costs added on in terms of a hole in the business of yours. Your identity had been a bit lost. How do we rebuild? Because you turned that failure into Underdog Con, right? How did we end up making that pivot, and what principles kind of guided you differently the second time around, where we no longer got this kind of part?
I don't think I did everything right, but if I could share from my point of view and looking at hindsight, right, it's that every situation has two handles, right? You can either choose a handle of being like being negative, being like a loser, or do something about it, right? So at that time, I felt like an underdog again. And that's how I named the event Underdog Con, right? Like I told to my team, who was also shocked at the time because suddenly we weren't working on data science projects anymore, right? And I'm like, I feel like an underdog again. Let's just call it Underdog Con. Let's just run an event. And since we know marketing, let's do a marketing event, right? And invite people that we know, market it to people that we know, and just to pay off the event bills, the venue bills, bring in some revenue for ourselves as well. So I think coming back to your question, right, what you've done right is like every situation has two handles. Which one do you want to grab, right? The negative one or the positive one where you turn lemons into lemonades, right? And that's how the name came about. That's how the drive came about.
It's kind of like built into that identity crisis of I was a head of marketing for this data science company, and now I'm just the founder. But actually, we're the underdogs in marketing, and we're gonna.
Yeah. You could call it that kind of story as well. Yeah, like exactly. Yeah. Right. Maybe I've not like word it out or voiced it out that well as you did, but yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. So, using like things that happen to you, you can't change that, but you can change what you do and how you respond to it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's great principles to live by, right? I mean, there's so many. Ways to say it, but it's like if you get knocked down, you've got to pick yourself back up again.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases that's one of the hardest parts of being a founder of any form of business, any kind of company, is that you are going to go through incredibly difficult periods, and it's how you react to those situations that proves what kind of person you are and what kind of leader you are.
Yeah.
big time. And so it worked out. Underdog was a success. The first.
I think so. So if I could share like a bit of marketing slash business context to how we dealt with that, right? I think storytelling is huge in business. And what I realized was when I ran the first event, a lot of people buy into that story that I've told, which was genuine on, and on the ground. It's not something that I made up, right? And I just kind of like told that story in the newsletters, the emails, the site, the landing pages that I've set up. But it's because of that story, people bought into that, right? So I realized that a lot of businesses today, right, it comes down into people buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? And storytelling elements is so important to put in there. So I think that's also one huge takeaway I can take away from that experience. Like, you have to really brush up your storytelling and tell your story, because if you don't, you're just the same as anybody out there in the market.
Yeah. I mean, it's very primal in us, like from when we were just around fires sharing stories. It's a part of the human DNA, so absolutely. And I love that you said know, like, and trust. I think a lot of people forget those three elements to sales and marketing, and those are so important. And so the big lessons from this experience for you, right? Partnerships, due diligence. This is something that you touched on a little bit at the beginning. Have you had a partnership since?
No, those joint ventures, but I've not had any partnerships after that.
Okay, but joint ventures properly format.
Yes. But what I've learned also is like you could sign like a dozen of papers, hundreds of papers, but if a partner is going to screw you over, it's going to happen no matter what. Don't you think so?
It can still happen. It can still happen.
Yeah.
We want some protection, of course.
Yeah.
And if you were to sort of take one like big look back and takeaway, what would you be thinking?
That's a huge question. I think one thing I would do would be to work more transparently. Like, if I'm going to partnership with someone, I would definitely demand a little bit of more transparency into knowing how things are flowing out, how much is everyone being paid, and the little details in the business that you take for granted because you're so excited about this new idea, this new business, that you just rush into it. So it's to really take a step back and say, hey, I want to start off this working relationship with transparency, where we can trust each other, right? So that is something that I would definitely do if I were to go into a new partnership. So no rushing into it head first, like we always do.
We get excited. I think I would take two other learnings from your story, that even if you've got like a nice war chest, it's still important to look at the cash flow and be on top of collections as well, even when we're not so worried about it.
Yeah.
Because it can bite you down the road.
Yeah, you become careless, you become complacent. You no longer have that like hunger, right? Oh, we need to survive kind of like instinct anymore when you have like,
money in the bank.
Yeah.
Wow. And looking back, what's kind of changed in how you look at things now? Maybe how you define success? Because obviously you've got Daily CMO, you've got Underdog.com. How do you make sure Daily CMO and Underdog.com don't fall into those same traps? And I think something you touched on when we talked before is like purpose over profit now. So what does defining success look like for Reuben at the end of 2025?
This could be so different for so many people. I think different people have different definitions of success. But for me, I think success is being able to do what you like to do, who you like to do it with, and whenever you want it, right? So if I'm working on the things that I love doing, and I know that I'm creating some sort of impact in the world, that's success to me, right?
Yeah.
And finally, if you do that right, I think that the byproduct is the money coming in for most businesses. And perhaps like I have experience like working on things that I don't want to work on, right? And while money is good here and there, after a while you get tired of it. It becomes a job. It becomes something that you don't look forward to doing anymore. And what I realize is that I'm always in this space of education, experience, and learning, and I enjoy that. Right, when we host an event or a program, and someone comes back to you and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed that. It really helped me in my business." That is the purpose that I feel is my purpose right now. So I would say like for most businesses out there, the lesson I'll take back is like to look for a purpose. What kind of impact are you creating in this world, right? And then tie it back to your business goals.
I agree.
If that makes
I
sense.
think absolutely, and I think sometimes people keep purpose at a bit too high level. I think you need to get down to your core purpose. And it sounds like you deep dived and figured that out through pain and hustling, should we say.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people will write, my purpose is this, and then they don't go, and why is it that? And what
Yeah,
does it
so
look like?
I think a lot of people build their purpose based on what they see other people have, right? So
Yes.
some people say, "Oh, I need to be the next Steve Jobs. I need to be the next like whoever," right? But I don't think that fits for me, right? I don't want to be the next Steve Jobs. I don't think I want to be the next Elon Musk. And to me, purpose comes very differently. So I guess that's what I see.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it that people should know about you now? Like how do they find you? What are you doing? Obviously, we've got Underdog Con. Who's that for? How do people get involved? How do people learn these storytelling lessons and transparency and essentially everything that you've kind of gone through today?
Right. So at Daily CMO, we are very much in the business of helping marketers and underdog brand founders grow through marketing, right? So the way we do that is through workshops, events, and also with a little bit of services on the side where we help some businesses with build up a whole marketing system within their company. But primarily, we are more known for the events, the programs, workshops that we run. And yeah, they can look for us at dailycmo.net. You'll find anything you need to know on what we are up to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Reuben. Thanks for sharing your fuck up and coming on the show.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ben, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you.